L, I know you've got something that you wanted to get off your chest as of recently with the Department of Education. Let's go ahead and jump into that, bro.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, man. As some of you know, in my real life, real work, I am an educator. And one of the concerns that most of us educators have had, particularly educators in poor working class black and brown communities, have been what is this current administration going to do that is going to harm what we are trying to do for these black and brown kids. And lo and behold, right down the road from me in Baltimore, Baltimore City Public Schools is, I don't I am trying to find the best way to describe this
Schools
horrible
are facing
moment.
what's being called catastrophic financial cuts. The U.S. Department of Education says it will not reimburse state schools the millions of dollars it had already committed to giving them.
They say this loss could impact things like tutoring, construction projects, summer learning, and so much more. The state superintendent says districts like Baltimore City, Baltimore, and PG counties are also among some of the places to be hit the hardest.
The United States Department of Education had immediately rescinded reimbursements to states and districts for approved pandemic recovery funds.
State leaders say this announcement puts over $400 million in school funding at risk.
Maybe a tutoring program that's going on right now in schools that was intended to go through this school year, or it might be an improvement to a health room in a school. And Dr. Wright is having to tell them to stop spending on those until we have further clarification. So that tutor will probably not be there next week.
These funds have been used on several initiatives, including such Maryland League grant programs as high dosage tutoring, social emotional wellness programs, and summer learning.
Now, just a few moments ago, city schools responded to all of this, saying, quote, "We plan and committed these funds in good faith to provide essential academic recovery programs, including high dosage tutoring and extended learning opportunities. These initiatives have played a crucial role in helping our students with the needs they still face from disruptions caused by the pandemic." Now, the state superintendent went on to say all of this is still new, guys, and they are gathering data on what specific programs and systems will be hurt the most. Now, Wright says they are in touch with state lawmakers and exploring legal action. Guys?
It removes a number of their programs that poor working class people in general rely on, such as tutoring programs. And the biggest one that is going to have the largest impact is after school programs. This cut that the Baltimore City Public Schools are going to face is going to initially affect up to 4,500 students in the Baltimore area. Uh, Say what you want to say about after school programs, that they are often used as a quasi babysitter for working class families. There may be some truth to that. I won't argue that. But if that is the case, what does that say to all of those families who no longer have the option of using that after school program? And also the flip side of the after school programs tend to be connected to special education departments where they use those things to supplement services that students have in their IEPs.
Yep.
Also, those after school programs are often opportunities for young people who are on the verge of being involved in the juvenile justice system to not be directly connected to it. This is a major hit to a community, Baltimore, that is already struggling with their education system there. But for that community, Baltimore City specifically, to lose up to $50 million to support these programs is absolutely fucking devastating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Krush, go ahead, bro.
Um, yeah, when I've actually, this is something that's been ongoing for me. In terms of my awareness of the issues, around this. As you know, my wife has had a long career in education. I have several friends in education for decades now, and we were concerned that there are people on the on several sides of the educational sphere who have been concerned about this, and the cuts made will be devastating, and it's going to be so disruptive for these communities, because as I'm monitoring the situation in the news and trying to get a feel for what a response could be, what the logical next step could be, which seems to be kind of vague right now, or at least they don't want to say what that next step might be, to take care of these budget shortfalls. But I can see now how disruptive this will be for entire communities. Childcare is very expensive, for these families, outside of schools, and not to. In a way, it's hard not to say that schools did not take take a role in childcare for these families, especially for these hardworking families. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard on them, and the summers are going to be very difficult for these young people, without options to channel their energy, to be productive with their time. But hopefully, maybe I'm hoping that the awareness of this issue will perhaps hopefully spur some kind of immediate community response.
That part.
That's what I'd like to get to now. Personally, I'd like to plant some seeds of optimism in the situation. The idea, of course, the idea of states, filling the gap, quote unquote, is still something that seems, people don't want to say that, so far, but maybe, it's time to take next steps. That's what I'm curious about at this point. I mean, it's going to happen. It has happened. One thing that stunned my wife personally was the fact that the cuts were immediate for this fiscal year. Not even for 2026, like normal. Like normal.
April
No,
11th,
they cut that shit. They cut that shit. Boom, in the middle. Like when money's been sent out, money's been spent. All this, all people are in the middle of services and shit. Cats are in the middle of classes and shit. Just get. Oh, I'm sorry, class is done. There's no teacher. There's no nothing. The immediacy of the cuts is pretty stunning. But I do hope that maybe I don't want to think about what the state can respond, but how our communities can respond to this. For all the talk of getting money, the get money mantra, let's see if we can put all that money you getting to use, good use. My people. You know what I'm saying? So,
and to be clear too, these programs will be ending. To piggyback off of what Krush was stating, April 11th, these programs will be.
That shocked
done.
That shocked a lot. That shocked a lot of consulting groups. Lot of nonprofit that really stunned them, and they're trying to do their best to get plans together to help everyone out. But the immediacy of it is putting everyone on the back foot. I mean, even our best people are like, holy shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they're trying to figure out the math and the meetings and the wrangle this and sponsorship and that.
It's a reimbursement too. That's where it boils down to. That's what it boils down to. And I think we got to take this piece by piece. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think we can understate the fact that the Trump administration, with its closures of these government agencies and the Department of Education specifically, has taken an approach where they are throwing a hand grenade into every fucking situation, every fucking facet of our life, and blowing shit up. I think we cannot understate that.
No, absolutely
at this point.
Absolutely.
And the Department of Education and its impact on our communities, especially poor, working class, Black and brown communities, once again, they're going to be the most
impacted by some of these moves.
Yeah.
This is a reimbursement program, as El already said, that came from the COVID relief money that we got. Many of the states, and I want to make sure we're clear, we're talking about Baltimore specifically, but this is happening across the nation,
across the country,
in many cities across the nation. There are many communities that are going to be impacted by this, because I know there's a group of people that will watch this, that will see this and say that Maryland has a spending problem, has had financial problems for some time. No, there are cities across the country that are having the same exact problem. The same exact problem.
I heard somebody
all across the country. So we got to ask ourselves, one, people, because I know there's some people that will say, well, why do you need the money? The pandemic is over. You shouldn't need pandemic monies. This is reimbursement money. Many of this money that the federal government gave to these cities, to these municipalities, were the first time in many instances where these cities were in the black financially for the school system, where they could afford to have and do these programs. So now you've gotten into all of these things. You've established these programs that are honestly helping the community. And let's take a step back and make sure folks are clear. Because of the pandemic, nationwide, the average deficiency for students is that they are a year and a half behind their grade level because of the pandemic. So these monies, for lack of a better description, was supposed to be helping them not only to catch up, but then to also facilitate these other programs that have historically seen a deficit, that have historically seen neglect. Okay? So now you have folks operating at base level, and the federal government has told you, nah, we good. We're going to take not only are we going to take our money back, but we're going to dismantle all these other programs that you've invested your time and energy into. The argument has always been, at least from the federal government, and one of the reasons why they want to dismantle the Department of Education is because they said they want to put the rights back in states' hands.
Yeah.
The majority of the and the free market component, because ultimately they're going to try and privatize schools and all these other programs as well. Yeah. But the majority of the work that is being done in your locality is being done by the state.
Already.
The Department of Education only really handles only but a few things, handling for children with disabilities, things of that nature.
With some key supplemental shit.
With some key supplementation.
Key supplementation. But supplemental nonetheless.
So don't let anybody tell you or misguide you to think that it's because they're giving states back their rights and powers, because they're not. The states have always had the majority.
Every state has its own DOE anyway.
Has always had the majority of the power in this situation. So I want to ask the question to our audience, to our viewers, to our listeners. What does that mean when you know that your community is counting on something, and the federal government has, for whatever reason, not even because it's being managed poorly, because it's happening across the nation.
There's no data stating that. Sure.
Exactly. What does it mean when the federal government takes that money away and they put your children in a
What is that telling you? What is that
really
telling you?
To be clear, this is a direct assault from this current administration.
Absolutely.
But for the full context, this is not new at all. We've seen this before. We can go all the way back to fucking, thank God that he is dead, Reagan. That he literally was the architect
of Education from being implemented.
This type of dismantling of the Department of Education. Everything that we are seeing currently, he is the forefather of this nonsense. That'd be Ronald Reagan. He is the monster who first gave this idea and put this forth, that he wanted the states to have all of the power over education, and primarily and more specifically, the free market component. Like, we don't talk enough about how our education system is a constant fight for it not to be privatized. You hear the charter school fights all the time and things along those lines, but you don't hear about the textbooks. You don't hear about the curriculum. And these monies that these schools have spent, and we're counting on the reimbursements, were used to hire your reading specialists, to hire your speech and language pathologists, to bring in your social workers into the community. This funding, so the federal funding typically will go to those types of positions in school districts. So when the federal funding money comes away, this is going to affect two groups first: those who have the 504s
Yes,
and
sir.
those who have the IEPs, which means you have a special education designation, because those services are typically paid for
By federal
out of
funds.
federal funding.
Yep.
So, and the other side of this is my sister, who is also an educator, she was talking about kindergarten enrollment for the upcoming year. She said out of 100 new kindergartners, 47 of them have already been tested to be on the autism spectrum. Okay, so huge number. That's almost half of that. But that's not the point. The point is those young people require the services that the federal dollars typically pay for. So without those federal dollars and all these things being cut, that are 47 young people who will not get FAPE, free appropriate education, which is a legal thing. They're not going to get that. And the impact that's going to have on your teachers, your administration, and other students in the classroom. The snowball effect from these cuts will be studied for generations, and it will do insurmountable and unmeasurable amounts of damage.
Yeah.
47 young people, man, 47 kindergartens. I think she said the previous years was like 15, 10. So we're seeing a rise in our young people being diagnosed, and we can argue about that. We can unpack that more, but we're seeing more people get that, which means they need more services. And those federal funding, those federal dollars for these programs, these curriculums that are being cut, my guy, it's. But the one thing that I will say that I did take some amount of hope from was the way the Baltimore Teachers Union has responded.
That's true.
Okay, the
Prince George's
Baltimore
County, Montgomery
teachers,
County did the same thing.
yes, teachers unions across the country are getting together privately. You're not going to find what they're doing on social media. You're not going to find it. They're keeping it private for a number of reasons. They are putting things in place to respond to all of these things in ways that we educators hope you, Joe Public, will support, because that is the only way that we are going to combat and defeat these things if we are unified
as a
and
collective,
we fight together.
Collective power. Collective bargaining power. Collective bargaining power, period.
Yeah. So at this point, the state of Maryland, at the very least, their teachers union and the school board have written a letter to Congress asking them to reconsider. Glenn Ivey, who's our representative in Prince George's County, has also said that there are talks right now that if Congress does not reconsider, that they would be filing a lawsuit to take the federal government to court for removing
And that
those
would be
funds.
step one.
That would be
That would
step
be-
one. That'd be step one. Before we wrap this
nice
one up, I
pilot.
want to make sure.
Nice way of doing things initially.
Yeah, well,
until things get a little more dirty.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, I don't think that we do also need to take in consideration that once again, this is concerted efforts by this administration to intentionally disrupt the lives of people across the country, and also to get their lick back on politicians that they don't like. We saw what happened to the governor of Maine when she said she wasn't going to do something for the transgender students or whatever he's going to take to court. He's going to fight that. One of the Trump has now also picked up a beef with our governor here in Maryland. Because
got beef with him too, but yeah,
Westmore. I mean, everyone can have beef with him, but has a beef with Westmore because
I
not
dig
willing
it.
to capitulate to a whole bunch of other things that that Trump has said that the state should be doing. So, one thing that always gets my mind, and we'll wrap it. I just got to get this out. we always debate on whether or not a country, a municipality, a government should be run like a business. And I've ultimately always said no, right? And this is the reason why I say no. A business is always going to take the bottom line as its primary structure, hands down, period, above everything.
Profit over everything.
Everything.
Over
Profit over
everything.
people.
A government's job is to take care of its people.
People over
period.
everything. People over
period, point blank. So when you're going to say you're going to subvert the well-being of your people for a fictitious bottom line, it makes my stomach hurt, bro. It makes my stomach hurt.